After transgender and transracial, we got transabled. Yeah, this one's really messed up. Physically healthy people who feel they should have been born disabled. A man in Great Britain cut off his arm because he felt like an amputee. A woman in North Carolina poured drain cleaner in her eyes because she felt blind. Guess what's next? Grown man posting an ad on Craigslist wanting a nanny because he identifies as a baby. You can't make this stuff up. Ridiculous? Perhaps, but who's to say anymore if that's how he feels? If a man can be a woman because he feels like one, if a white person can be a black person because she feels like one, if a healthy person can mutilate herself because she feels disabled, if a grown man can be a baby because he feels infantile, where does this end?
I am a 27-year-old transgender woman. I am a Wolftherian and a member of the furry fandom.
When and how did you discover this inner wolfness?
Probably around age 10 or 11. I was watching an anime about wolves and see the wolf running across the screen, and I'm somehow just intrinsically like, oh, that's me.
Have you spent any time around biological wolves?
Yes.
That sounds dangerous also. What context are you?
So I was a volunteer with a preserve, and I've also visited many wolf preserves.
Are you able to communicate with the wolves?
Am I going to have a conversation with a wolf in the way that I'm communicating you and I? Obviously not. Am I going to read their body language, respond appropriately to their behaviors and their nonverbal cues? Yes.
Would you be able to give us an example of this wolf communication?
No. I'm not comfortable doing so.
Okay.
The level of craziness that's going on in this world where people are now saying that they can identify as an animal. I'm not surprised, and many people who also think like myself are not surprised when we're now saying that women can identify as men and men can identify as women. This is the rubbish that we open ourselves to when we start changing definitions and saying people can be things that they can't actually be.
I believe that a woman is anyone who identifies as a woman. It's not biological or anything to me, or maybe to other people, but if you identify as a woman, then you're a woman.
What does that mean?
Like, do you think that trans women are women?
I think biological women are women.
I think you're wrong. That's what I think.
But what defines being a woman?
Just personally to me, I don't want to have to argue my decision, but I think if you identify as a woman and you believe that you're a woman, then you're a woman. That's it, plain and simple from my opinion.
You can't define something with that thing necessarily. You can't say a woman is a woman, because what does that mean?
It means what I just said. That's your opinion. I'm not going to argue about it.
If a woman is someone who identifies as a woman, I now identify as a white woman. And if anyone disagrees with me, you are a bigot.
I'm here to bring awareness to the emails that had surfaced earlier this month. The one I find most disturbing of all is of a third grade teacher trying to talk about sex with 8-year-old students. These are 8-year-old children that she's trying to hold a sexual orientation class with. A parent shared their concern and their objection to it and pulled their kid out. And instead of this teacher being concerned of what she did wrong, she goes to a district employee and asks for ways of how she can continue to teach sexual orientation to her third grade class. You guys want us to believe that this isn't a propaganda, that no agenda is being held? This wasn't just any sexuality class. This was specifically designed 3 days a week. She taught LGBTQ curriculum in her class.
Everyone watching this, just like myself watching this, is wondering to themselves, what is the use of teaching 8-year-olds about sexual orientation? And what place does a teacher have to be talking to 8-year-olds about this? How is talking about sexual orientation gonna better the children's future? Why don't they talk about things like how the economy works, how to better your society, and things such as this? But of course, the teachers talk about sexual orientation.
It raises the question, how many of those students are excelling in that classroom? Is everybody in that class getting A's in math, English, grammar, social studies? That we can dedicate 3 days a week to teach 8-year-olds about sexual orientation? I don't care what kind of sex is being discussed. The word sexuality, nudity does not belong in the ears in a classroom of 8-year-old kids.
Before we get back into the video, I need all of you to turn on your post notifications so that you get notified when one of my videos come out. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the video if you enjoyed the video, comment down below. I'll try and reply to as many comments as possible, and follow me on Instagram and Twitter at YinkaThatGuy. Let's get back into the video.
And when a parent showed their concern, what does this teacher do? Completely disregards and goes behind the parent's back trying to find ways of how to continue these lesson plans. The level of disrespect that has been shown to Christian conservative parents is becoming very obvious.
It's very interesting that when a parent raises their concerns and says they don't want this taught in the school, the teacher still tries to find a way to go behind the parents' backs and teach the children of all of this nonsense. That goes to show you that there must be a certain agenda being pushed if even when the parents are telling you they don't want their children to be taught such rubbish, you try and find a way to still teach it to them. It's absolutely insane what's going on in society and how this is all being allowed to be done to children, because they know that they're going to be the future of society. So if they teach them as young as possible, you can indoctrinate them as young as possible.
It's like all of a sudden, just because we don't fit the agenda, we don't fit within the parameters of the agenda that's being pushed, we're being disregarded and pushed to the side. We're not talking about having people excluded. We're talking about the level of uncomfortability that some parents are experiencing, and that's important. Because if you guys want to talk about including all, listening to all, every student matters, our kids matter too. And we don't want those subjects being taught to children who are just 8 years old. And the topics get worse and worse and the subjects get more detailed. And I'm sorry, are we doing Bible studies in classrooms? No, we're not, right? So why is this a certain agenda being pushed into the classrooms? But if we don't take a stand and we don't share our voice, they're just going to sweep this under the rug. Why should a parent overhear her 8-year-old kid being taught about sex?
Mrs. Tiber says, "Good morning, Sally and Craig. As you know, I teach 3rd grade. Today I talked to my class about LGBTQ Pride Month and played 2 short videos from YouTube that were geared toward kids. A parent who heard the lesson and discussion made her daughter leave the Zoom and texted me asking when I was done discussing sexual orientation so that she can let her kids back onto Zoom. I was planning on doing more lessons tomorrow and Wednesday, but now I'm afraid to." After sending the email, Mrs. Tiber received a response from Mr. Craig Lewis, part of district staff, that said, "Do not be concerned or afraid. Your principal should support you, as I know that our district, including Vivian, does," end quote. This district staffer goes even further and gives more media recommendations to the teacher, but says to steer clear of content that says sexual or coming out, since it may raise red flags. In other words, coaching this teacher on proven methods to push her agenda, but to stay under the radar. Immediately after the release of this email chain, the parents at Jefferson Elementary who have had Ms. Tiber as their child's teacher reached out to the principal and demanded answers. Why is gender and sexuality issues being taught to 8-year-olds to begin with? With the tremendous loss of learning our children experienced the past 2 years, coupled with the already dismal reading and math performance scores of public schools, why are teachers taking away precious learning time to push their own political and social agendas?
The reason that they're doing it is because they want to push an agenda, as she has clearly stated. It's not about teaching the children things that they need to learn to better society or to better themselves. It's to push an agenda of all of this nonsense of love and inclusion and loving everyone. And as I usually say, the only time they say love everyone and we include everyone is to those who agree with their agenda. Because if you don't agree with the agenda, they kick you out. So they don't really love everyone if they only love the people who agree with them.
In what realm should 8-year-olds be discussing topics around transgenderism, lesbian, gay, queer, and coming out? All words which were repeated many times in these videos. As a parent, I demand an investigation into this matter, the teacher, and the district as a whole. The lid has been flipped and the level of systemic indoctrination is abhorrent.
And I don't blame them for coming out and speaking out like this. And as I keep saying, people need to start speaking up more, and it is becoming more apparent that more people are speaking out like this lady and many others. But anyway, that was another video, another reaction. As I usually say, if you guys enjoyed the video, like the video as much as possible, comment down below, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow me on Twitter at YinkaThatGuy, and I am out.